The dinner plate shattered against the hardwood floor, red wine spreading like blood across the white oak. I didn't move, didn't apologize. Just stood there watching Marcus flinch as the crystal exploded at his feet. "Jesus, Diane," he hissed, grabbing a napkin. "What the hell?" Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed. Because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. What the hell indeed? What the hell was I supposed to do when I'd just overheard my fiancé telling his best friend that I was having memory issues and personality changes? What the hell was the appropriate response when the man you planned to marry was casually inventing neurological symptoms? "You definitely didn't have?" "Sorry," I said, my voice flat. "Must be those tremors you were telling David about." Marcus froze, the napkin halfway to the wine stain. His eyes darted to mine, and I watched the calculations happening behind them. How much had I heard? How much did I know? Everything, Marcus. I know everything. But I didn't say that. Not yet. Instead, I picked up another plate and very deliberately carried it to the sink, my hands perfectly steady. No tremors, no confusion, no memory lapses. Just Dr. Diane Ashford, attending neurologist, at Mercy General Hospital, fully in control of her faculties and about to dismantle her fiancé's life with the same precision I used to diagnose degenerative brain diseases. It had started 3 weeks ago, though I hadn't realized it at the time. I'd been reviewing patient files in my office when my nurse, Rita, had knocked on the door. "Dr. Ashford, your 4 o'clock is here. Catherine Reeves, 32, presenting with headaches and visual disturbances." I'd looked up from my notes, already cataloging potential diagnoses. Migraine with aura, most likely. Possibly occipital lobe involvement. Standard intake, standard workup. Then Catherine Reeves walked through my door, and my standard day imploded. She was beautiful in that effortless way that made other women either hate her or want to be her. Long auburn hair, green eyes, a nervous smile that probably had men falling over themselves to reassure her. She sat down in the patient chair, clutching her purse like a lifeline. "Thank you for seeing me, Dr. Ashford," she said softly. "I've been having these terrible headaches, and my vision gets blurry sometimes. It's been going on for about 2 months. I went through my standard neurological examination. Pupillary response, normal. Cranial nerves, intact. Motor function, no deficits. But as I worked, something nagged at me. Something about her perfume. Something familiar. Any history of head trauma?" I asked, shining my penlight into her eyes. "No, nothing like that. Seizures? Loss of consciousness? No. Any new medications? Changes in birth control?" She hesitated, and I caught it. The tiny pause, the slight shift in her body language. Years of reading patients had taught me to notice these things. "I actually just started taking something new," she said carefully. "For anxiety, my partner recommended it. He knows a doctor. Partner, not husband, not boyfriend. Partner." The word choice was deliberate, I noted. "What's the medication called?" I don't remember exactly. It's in my car, but it's been helping with stress." Red flag. Patients always knew their medications. Always. Unless someone else was managing their prescriptions for them. "And this partner," I said casually, making notes. "Is he supportive about your symptoms?" Her face lit up, and my stomach twisted with an emotion I couldn't quite name yet. "Oh, he's wonderful. He's been so worried about me. He even set up this appointment. He's friends with several doctors, actually. He insisted I see a specialist." The pieces weren't fitting together yet, but I could feel them hovering, waiting to lock into place. "Does your partner have a medical background?" "He's in pharmaceutical sales," she said proudly. "He's very successful, travels a lot for work, but when he's home, he takes such good care of me." Pharmaceutical sales. Marcus was in pharmaceutical sales. The room suddenly felt smaller. I forced my expression to remain neutral, professional. I see. And these headaches, do they follow any pattern? Time of day? Associated with stress? As Catherine described her symptoms, I was barely listening. Instead, I was cataloging details. The slight tan line on her ring finger where no ring sat now. The designer handbag that Marcus had mentioned wanting to buy for someone special last month. The perfume. Chanel Negro 5, the same bottle I'd seen in Marcus's car 2 weeks ago when he'd claimed it was a gift for his sister. His sister wore Dior. I'd like to order an MRI, I said, my voice professionally detached. Just to rule out any structural abnormalities. And I'll need a complete list of all medications you're taking, including supplements. Of course, Catherine said, relief washing over her face. Thank you so much, Dr. Ashford. Marcus said you were the best neurologist in the city, Marcus said. The words hung in the air like a noose. Marcus? I asked, my pen hovering over my prescription pad. Oh, my partner, Marcus Brennan. Do you know him? Do I know him? Do I know the man I've been engaged to for 8 months? The man whose ring I'm wearing right now? The man who apparently has a whole other woman he's setting up neurology appointments for? The name sounds familiar, I said carefully. Pharmaceutical sales is a small world. She smiled, completely oblivious. He speaks so highly of you, says you're brilliant. I bet he does. The rest of the appointment passed in a blur of professional autopilot. I ordered the MRI, wrote prescriptions for legitimate migraine management, and scheduled a follow-up, all while mentally reviewing every late night Marcus had spent at conferences. Every weekend, sales meeting in neighboring cities. Every time he'd accused me of being too focused on work, too unavailable, too cold. He was projecting. The entire time, he was projecting. After Catherine left, I sat in my office for 20 minutes staring at the wall. My brain, trained to find patterns in neural pathways and disease progressions, was now finding patterns in my relationship. And they all led to the same diagnosis. Marcus was a liar. Marcus was a cheater. Marcus had been living a double life. But more than that, and this is what made my hands shake as I gripped my desk, Marcus was bringing his mistress to me for medical care. To me, his neurologist fiancé. Either he was monumentally stupid or monumentally arrogant. Maybe both. I pulled up Catherine's file again, studying the insurance information. Her address was in Riverside, a neighborhood 40 minutes away. Far enough that she'd never randomly run into me. Far enough that Marcus could keep his two worlds separate. Except he'd gotten sloppy, or overconfident. Or maybe he got some sick thrill from it, bringing his mistress to his fiancé for treatment. The psychology of it was fascinating in a horrifying way. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Working late tonight. Don't wait up. Love you. Working late. Right. Probably with Catherine, who lived a convenient 40 minutes away. Far enough for an affair, but close enough for regular visits. I typed back, no problem. I have late patients anyway. Then I pulled up our shared calendar. Marcus's business trips over the past 6 months were color-coded in blue. I cross-referenced them with Catherine's appointment history, which I could access through our hospital system. Her headaches had started 2 months ago, but her insurance showed medical visits going back further, to a GP, to an optometrist, to a therapist. Each visit corresponded with a gap in Marcus's travel schedule. When he wasn't traveling for work, Catherine was seeing local doctors. When he was allegedly out of town, her appointments stopped. The pattern was clear. Marcus was living with her when he claimed to be traveling. Living with me when he claimed to be home. A perfect split-screen life. But why the neurologist visit? Why bring her to me specifically? I spent the next hour digging deeper into Catherine's file, looking for clues. Her symptoms were real. The MRI I'd ordered would likely show typical migraine markers. But something about her presentation bothered me. The way she'd hesitated about medications. The way she'd mentioned Marcus had recommended something for anxiety. I pulled up the database of prescription medications, cross-referencing with Marcus's pharmaceutical company. He specialized in neurological drugs, antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications, some newer experimental treatments for ADHD. And then I found it. A prescription for Ativan, filled 3 months ago, not prescribed by a doctor in our system. An out-of-state prescription, filled locally through a pharmacy chain that Marcus's company supplied. He was giving her pills, controlling her medication, possibly even causing some of her symptoms through improper dosing or drug interactions. My medical brain kicked into high gear. Benzodiazepines like Ativan could cause headaches, confusion, and visual disturbances if not properly managed. If Marcus was playing doctor with his mistress, he could be inadvertently or intentionally making her sick. But why? Why make your mistress sick enough to need a neurologist? Unless... Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, like this video, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Unless you wanted to establish a medical record, document symptoms, build a paper trail. I sat back in my chair, the full picture finally crystallizing. Marcus wasn't just having an affair, he was planning something bigger, something that required medical documentation and expert opinions. I picked up my phone and called my friend Rachel, a family law attorney. "Rachel, it's Diane. I need to ask you a hypothetical question." "Sure, what's up?" Hypothetically, if someone wanted to prove their partner was mentally incompetent, what kind of evidence would they need? There was a pause. Medical records would be a big part of it, especially documentation from specialists like neurologists or psychiatrists. "Why, is everything okay?" "Just a patient case I'm consulting on," I lied. "Thanks." I hung up and stared at my engagement ring. The half-carat diamond caught the light, sending rainbow refractions across my desk. Marcus wasn't just cheating on me. He was building a case against me, or at least building the framework for one. The memory issues and personality changes he'd been telling people about. The way he'd been pushing me to see his doctor friend David for a routine checkup. The concerned questions about my stress levels, my sleep patterns, my focus at work. He was creating a narrative. Dr. Diane Ashford, brilliant neurologist, suffering from early-onset cognitive decline, unable to recognize her own symptoms, incompetent, unreliable. And if we were married when this narrative became official? Well, that would make it much easier to contest a prenuptial agreement, to claim I wasn't of sound mind when certain documents were signed, to potentially access my assets, my practice, my reputation, the truly sick part. I'd almost played right into it. I'd been so busy with work, so focused on my patients that I'd dismissed my own exhaustion as normal. Attributed my occasional forgetfulness to stress. Let Marcus's concerned questions make me second-guess myself, but I wasn't sick. I was overworked and engaged to a sociopath. Now, standing in our kitchen 3 weeks after that revelation, watching Marcus clean up the wine I deliberately spilled, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I had 3 advantages he didn't know about. 1. I'd diagnosed his mistress and had full access to her medical records. 2. I'd been documenting everything since that appointment. Every concerned comment he made. Every time he tried to convince me I was forgetting things. Every manipulation recorded, time-stamped, and saved in multiple locations. 3. I was a neurologist. I understood the human brain better than anyone Marcus knew. I could play his game better than he could ever imagine. "You should be more careful," Marcus said, finally looking up from the floor. "That's the second glass you've dropped this week, is it?" I asked innocently. "I don't remember the first one." His eyes lit up, actual excitement at what he thought was evidence of my declining memory. "Tuesday night. You dropped a wine glass then, too. Don't you remember?" I did remember. I'd done it deliberately, just like tonight. But I widened my eyes slightly, touched my temple as if trying to recall. "Oh, maybe. I've been so tired lately." "Exactly what I've been worried about," Marcus said. and I could hear the false concern masking his satisfaction. Maybe you should take some time off work. You've been pushing yourself too hard. Maybe you're right. I moved closer to him, playing the role he expected. Confused, vulnerable, dependent. Have I been acting strange lately? A little, he said carefully. Nothing major, but small things. That's why I mentioned it to David last week. He's concerned too. David Martinez, Marcus's doctor friend. Another piece of the puzzle. What did David say? I asked, letting my voice tremble slightly. Marcus put his arm around me, the gesture almost tender if I didn't know better. He thinks you might be experiencing some early signs of stress-related cognitive issues. Nothing serious yet, but something to watch. He offered to do a full workup, completely confidential, just to put our minds at ease. Our minds. As if he were genuinely concerned and not actively trying to build a medical case against me. That's so sweet of you both, I said, leaning into him. I don't know what I'd do without you. You'll never have to find out, Marcus murmured, kissing the top of my head. Liar. That night, after Marcus fell asleep, I went down to my home office and pulled out the file I'd been building. 3 weeks of meticulous documentation, Catherine's medical records, Marcus's travel schedules, financial records showing irregularities in our joint account, photos of Marcus entering Catherine's apartment building, taken by the private investigator I'd hired the day after that fateful appointment, and most damning of all, the recording I'd made 2 nights ago when Marcus had dinner with David. I pulled up the audio file on my laptop, listening once again to Marcus's voice drifting through the baby monitor I'd strategically placed in the living room. They'd thought I was upstairs sleeping, exhausted from a long shift at the hospital. She's definitely showing signs, Marcus's voice said. The forgetfulness is getting worse. You're sure? David asked. I mean, she's a neurologist. She would notice. That's the beauty of it. She's so focused on everyone else's brains, she doesn't see what's happening to her own. Plus, the stress of the wedding planning, the long hours, it all provides perfect cover. And Catherine doesn't know? A pause. Then, Catherine thinks I'm helping her deal with her anxiety. She has no idea about the long-term plan. You're playing a dangerous game, Marcus. Not really. By the time anyone figures anything out, I'll be married to Diane, with access to her practice and her assets. If things go south, I have Catherine as backup. And if I need to claim Diane wasn't mentally competent when we signed the prenup, well, I'll have David Martinez's professional opinion to support that. I didn't agree to falsify medical records. You agreed to help your old fraternity brother make a smart financial decision. Diane's practice is worth millions. Her family's trust fund kicks in fully once she's married. This isn't about hurting her. It's about securing our future. You get your referral fees. I get financial security. Everyone wins, except Diane. Diane will be fine. She's so capable, so brilliant. She'll land on her feet. We're just redistributing assets. Listening to it again, I felt the same cold fury that had consumed me the first time. The casual cruelty, the calculated manipulation, the sheer audacity of thinking he could steal from me, gaslight me, and ruin my reputation while I remained oblivious. But the recording had one significant flaw. It wasn't admissible in court. Maryland was a 2-party consent state for recordings. Without Marcus knowing he was being recorded, this audio couldn't be used as legal evidence, which meant I needed a different strategy. I opened a new document on my laptop and began typing. Not a legal brief, but something far more powerful. A medical case study. I outlined every detail of Marcus's manipulation, framed as a psychological analysis. Narcissistic personality disorder with antisocial traits, pathological lying, financial motivation. A classic case of coercive control. Then I began researching the Medical Ethics Board's policies on doctors who falsify records. David Martinez thought he could help Marcus frame me as mentally incompetent? I would destroy his medical license so thoroughly, he'd be lucky to get a job as a pharmaceutical sales rep. The irony wasn't lost on me. My phone buzzed. A text from Rita, my nurse. Dr. Ashford, Catherine Reeves' MRI results are back. Everything looks normal. but I flagged something in her medication list. Can we discuss tomorrow? I typed back. First thing in the morning. Thanks, Rita. Rita was good at her job. Probably better than I'd given her credit for. If she'd noticed something in Catherine's medications, it meant there was evidence to find. I pulled up Catherine's file again, this time focusing on the pharmacy records. 3 prescriptions in the past 6 months, all filled at different pharmacies, all for medications that could interact poorly if not properly monitored. Ativan for anxiety, Imitrex for migraines, and something I'd missed before, Adderall, prescribed by an out-of-state doctor I'd never heard of. The combination was a ticking time bomb. Benzodiazepines and stimulants together could cause exactly the symptoms Catherine had presented with: headaches, visual disturbances, anxiety, confusion. And if she wasn't taking them under proper medical supervision, Marcus wasn't just manipulating Catherine. He was making her sick. Whether intentionally or through negligence, he was creating a patient who needed ongoing medical care. A patient whose symptoms would look concerning to any neurologist, including me. The full picture finally snapped into focus. Marcus had sent Catherine to me knowing I'd find something concerning in her presentation. He'd probably coached her on which symptoms to emphasize. The goal was to establish a pattern. Marcus Brennan, concerned partner, bringing his girlfriend to the best neurologist in the city for evaluation. And then, down the line, Marcus Brennan would express similar concerns about his wife. His neurologist wife, who should have recognized her own symptoms but was too proud or too sick to admit she needed help. The parallel would be damning. A neurologist who could diagnose others but not herself. A doctor whose judgment couldn't be trusted. An expert whose expertise had failed her. It was brilliant in a sociopathic way. But there was one variable Marcus hadn't accounted for. I was the neurologist who diagnosed Catherine. I knew about her. I'd seen the medication interactions. I understood the game, and I was going to flip the board. I spent the next hour drafting a detailed medical report on Catherine Reeves. Not the standard report for her file, but a comprehensive analysis of her medication history, symptom presentation, and potential for drug-induced cognitive issues. I noted every concerning interaction, every red flag in her prescription history, every indication that someone was inappropriately managing her medical care. Then I drafted a second report. This one outlined my concerns about a non-medical professional, specifically someone in pharmaceutical sales, potentially providing medical advice and medications without proper oversight. I named no names. Didn't have to. The pattern was clear enough that any ethics board would investigate. I saved both documents in encrypted files, backed them up to 3 different cloud services, and emailed copies to my attorney with instructions to open them if anything happened to me. Paranoid? Maybe. But Marcus had already proven he was capable of elaborate deception. I wouldn't put it past him to escalate if he felt cornered. The clock on my desk read 2:47 a.m. Upstairs, Marcus was sleeping peacefully, probably dreaming of his future financial windfall. In Riverside, Catherine was hopefully sleeping too, unaware that her boyfriend was using her as a pawn in a larger game. And here I sat, a neurologist trained to heal, planning the systematic destruction of both their lives. I should have felt guilty. Should have been the bigger person. Should have just called off the engagement and walked away. But they weren't just betraying me. They were weaponizing my profession, my expertise, my reputation. They were trying to make me doubt my own. The one thing I'd spent 12 years of higher education and another 8 years of practice refining. No, walking away wasn't enough. I pulled up my calendar and began planning. Catherine's follow-up appointment was in 2 weeks. I'd have her MRI results, her medication review, and a complete picture of her health by then. I'd also have time to build an airtight case against Marcus and David. But first, I needed more evidence. The recording wasn't admissible, but there were other ways to document Marcus's manipulation. I needed him to confess on record, in a way that couldn't be disputed. I opened a new browser tab and searched for Maryland's laws on medical fraud. Then I searched for information on coercive control. Then I started researching exactly how much damage I could legally do to someone's reputation without crossing into defamation. The answer, as it turned out, was quite a lot. As long as everything I said was true and documented, and I had plenty of documentation. Outside my window, the first hints of dawn were coloring the sky. In a few hours, I'd go back to being Dr. Diane Ashford, friendly neurologist, loving fiancé. I'd smile at Marcus over breakfast. I'd probably make another mistake. Forget where I put my keys, maybe. Give him more false hope that his plan was working. But underneath the facade, I was calculating, planning, preparing to execute the kind of precise, devastating takedown that only someone who truly understands the human brain could orchestrate. Marcus thought he was manipulating me. But he'd forgotten something crucial about neurologists. We don't just understand how brains work. We understand how they break, and I was about to show him exactly how much damage a brilliant mind could do when it decided to fight back. I closed my laptop and headed upstairs, my thoughts already on tomorrow's next moves. Step 1. Meet with Rita about Catherine's medication concerns. Step 2. Schedule a routine dinner with David Martinez. Step 3. Let Marcus think his plan was working while I dismantled it from the inside. He wanted to play doctor with my life? Fine. Let's see how he liked being the patient. Rita was waiting in my office when I arrived the next morning, her expression grim. Dr. Ashford, we need to talk about Catherine Reeves's medications. She closed the door behind her and handed me a printout. I ran her prescription history through the interaction database. This combination is dangerous. I studied the report, though I'd already spent half the night analyzing the same data. Ativan, Imitrex, Adderall, plus 2 supplements that could amplify the effects. The prescribing doctors were all different, scattered across 3 states. None of these doctors knew about the others. I said quietly. Exactly. And look at the pharmacy locations. They're strategically spread out so no single pharmacist would catch the interactions. Rita's voice dropped. Someone's doctor shopping for her. Or she's being manipulated into it. I know who. I met her eyes. And I know why. Rita's expression shifted from concern to understanding. She'd worked with me for 6 years. She knew me well enough to read between the lines. What do you need from me? She asked simply. Documentation. Everything. I need you to flag this in her file as a medication safety concern. Note that the patient appears unaware of the dangerous interactions. Recommend immediate consultation with her prescribing physicians. That'll trigger a pharmacy board review if the pattern continues. Good. I pulled up Catherine's file. Also, I need you to do something that might seem unusual. When Catherine comes in for her follow-up, I want you to ask her, casually, if anyone helped her fill out her medical history forms. Rita nodded slowly. You're building a case. I'm protecting a patient. What happens after that is just consequences. That evening, I executed phase 1 of my plan. Marcus came home from work at 7, looking pleased with himself. I was in the kitchen, very deliberately burning dinner. Hey, babe, he said, kissing my cheek. Something smells different. I looked at the smoking pan with exaggerated confusion. I thought I was making chicken, but now I'm not sure what this is. The joy that flickered in his eyes made my stomach turn. He thought he was winning. It's okay, he said soothingly. You've been working such long hours. Why don't we order takeout? And maybe this weekend we should talk about you cutting back at the hospital. Maybe you're right. I let my voice waver. I feel like I'm losing track of things lately. I know, sweetheart. That's why I set up that appointment with David for you. This Saturday, okay? Just a friendly checkup. Saturday. 3 days away. That gave me 72 hours to prepare. Okay, I agreed meekly. Then I played my trump card. Actually, speaking of doctors, I had the strangest thing happen at work today. A patient came in. Her boyfriend sent her to me specifically. Said he knew me through pharmaceutical circles. Marcus went very still. Oh, what was her name? Catherine something. Reeves, I think? She mentioned her partner was in pharmaceutical sales. Small world, right? I watched his face carefully. The micro-expressions I'd been trained to observe in neurological patients were just as revealing in liars. His pupil dilation, the slight tension in his jaw, the way his hand moved unconsciously to his phone pocket. "Doesn't ring a bell," he said smoothly. "Must be someone from a different company." Liar. "Probably," I agreed. "Anyway, she has some concerning symptoms. Possible medication interactions. I'm worried someone's been giving her medical advice without proper training." "That's dangerous," Marcus said, and I almost laughed at the irony. Very. "I'm actually going to have to report it to the pharmacy board if the pattern continues. Could ruin someone's career if they're caught prescribing without a license." Marcus's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then quickly silenced it. "I should take this. Work thing." He disappeared into his study, and I counted to 60 before following. The door was closed, but I could hear his voice through it, low and urgent. "Told you to be more careful." "No, she doesn't know. Just stick to the story. I'll handle it." I smiled and walked back to the kitchen. Phase 1 complete. Marcus was rattled. The next morning, I arrived at the hospital early and made a call I'd been dreading. "Mom? It's Diane. I need to talk to you about Marcus." My mother, Margaret Ashford, had never liked Marcus, said he had opportunist eyes. I'd dismissed it as maternal overprotectiveness. Now I wished I'd listened. "What's wrong?" Her voice sharpened with concern. "I'm breaking off the engagement, but I need you to trust me and not ask questions yet. Can you have Dad move the family trust documentation to the vault and change the access codes?" A pause. Then, "He's after the money, among other things. Consider it done. Your father and I will fly up this weekend. We'll handle this together." "No," I said firmly. "I need to handle this myself. But I need to know the assets are protected. Diane, if he's dangerous, he's not dangerous. He's just stupid enough to think I'm not paying attention." I softened my voice. "Trust me, Mom, I'm a neurologist. I understand manipulation better than he ever will." After we hung up, I made 3 more calls. One to my attorney, updating her on the situation. One to the Medical Ethics Board, filing a formal inquiry about Dr. David Martinez. And one to a journalist I'd met at a conference last year who specialized in medical fraud stories. The pieces were moving into place. Catherine's follow-up appointment was Thursday afternoon. She arrived looking worse than before, dark circles under her eyes, a slight tremor in her hands that hadn't been there 2 weeks ago. "The headaches are getting worse," she said, settling into the patient chair. "And I've been having trouble sleeping. Marcus thinks maybe I need stronger medication." "Marcus isn't a doctor," I said gently. "Catherine, I need to ask you something important. Have you been taking all these medications?" I showed her the list Rita had compiled. Her eyes widened. "Not all of them. Just the ones Marcus gives me. He says his doctor friend prescribes them." "David Martinez?" "Yes, do you know him?" "I know he's not licensed to prescribe controlled substances across state lines," I said carefully. "Catherine, these medication interactions are dangerous. You could have a seizure. Or worse," she paled. "But Marcus said—" "Marcus isn't a doctor," I repeated. "And I'm legally obligated to report this to the pharmacy board. Someone is engaging in medical fraud. No, you don't understand. Marcus is just trying to help me. He cares about me." I pulled up her MRI on my computer screen. "Your brain is healthy, Catherine. These symptoms? They're caused by drug interactions. Someone has been making you sick." "That's impossible. Marcus loves me. He's been taking care of me for almost a year. He even—" She stopped, her face crumbling as realization dawned. "He told me he was divorced." "He's engaged," I said quietly. "To me." The silence that followed was broken only by Catherine's sharp intake of breath. I watched her process the information, saw the exact moment her world imploded. You're Dr. Ashford, Diane Ashford." "Yes, he talks about you. Says you're sick. Says you're having memory problems and personality changes. He said—" Her voice broke. "He said you don't understand him anymore. That you're not the woman he fell in love with." "I'm not sick, Catherine." "I never was. Marcus has been lying to both of us." She stood abruptly, her purse falling to the floor. "I need to go." "Wait." I handed her a folder. This contains documentation of every medication you've been given, every interaction, every risk. Take it to the police. File a report. What Marcus and David have been doing isn't just unethical, it's criminal. Why are you helping me? Her voice was barely a whisper. Because you're my patient, and because we're both victims of the same man. I met her eyes. The difference is, I have the power to stop him. You have the evidence to prosecute him. After Catherine left, I sat in my office and waited. It took exactly 47 minutes for Marcus to call. What the hell did you say to Catherine? His voice was tight with barely controlled rage. I told her the truth. That someone was poisoning her with drug interactions. You had no right? I had every right. She's my patient. And you've been committing medical fraud. I kept my voice professionally cool. I've reported it to the pharmacy board. They'll be investigating both you and David. You bitch. You'll regret this. Actually, Marcus, I don't think I will. See, I've also been documenting your campaign to convince everyone I'm mentally incompetent. The recorded conversations with David, the false symptoms you've been reporting to friends, the carefully planned gaslighting. Silence. That recording isn't admissible, he finally said. No, but Catherine's testimony is. So is the pharmacy board investigation. So are the financial records showing you've been siphoning money from our joint account. So is the evidence that you've been living a double life. I paused. I'm a neurologist, Marcus. I understand the brain. I understand manipulation. Did you really think you could outsmart me? This isn't over. Actually, it is. I'm breaking off our engagement. You have until Sunday to move out. After that, I'm filing a restraining order and a civil suit for fraud. You can't. I can. I have. And Marcus, that appointment with David on Saturday? I'm still going. But I'm bringing my attorney, a court reporter, and a medical ethics board representative. I'm very interested in hearing what diagnosis you two have planned for me. I hung up before he could respond. Saturday morning arrived with crisp autumn sunshine. I dressed carefully, a tailored suit that screamed competence, minimal makeup, my hair pulled back in a no-nonsense bun. I looked exactly like what I was, a professional who would not be manipulated. Marcus had moved out Thursday night, leaving behind nothing but a few scattered belongings, and a note claiming I'd forced his hand, and he'd tried to help me. I'd photographed the note and added it to my evidence file. David Martinez's office was in a sleek medical building downtown. I arrived 15 minutes early with my attorney, Patricia Chen, and a stenographer I'd hired for the occasion. The receptionist looked confused. Dr. Martinez is expecting just Ms. Ashford. Dr. Ashford, I corrected. And my attorney will be joining us. Medical ethics board requirement for any evaluation that might affect my professional license. David appeared in the doorway, his face carefully neutral. Diane, this is just a friendly checkup. There's no need for... Dr. Martinez, Patricia interrupted smoothly. My client is here for a medical evaluation that her fiancé indicated would assess her cognitive function. Given the serious implications for her medical license, we insist on proper documentation. We were ushered into his office. David sat behind his desk, clearly thrown off balance. I took the patient chair, Patricia and the stenographer flanking me. Let's begin, I said pleasantly. I understand you have concerns about my cognitive function? David shifted uncomfortably. Marcus mentioned some symptoms. Memory issues, personality changes. He was worried. Specifically, what symptoms did Marcus report? Well, he said you've been forgetting things, dropping objects, acting confused. And did you verify these symptoms with me directly before agreeing to diagnose me? This isn't a diagnosis. It's just a consultation that Marcus specifically requested. The same Marcus who's been living a double life, committing medical fraud, and attempting to gaslight me into believing I'm mentally incompetent. I leaned forward. Did he tell you why he wanted this evaluation, David? Silence. Let me help you, I continued. Marcus needed medical documentation that I was cognitively impaired. Documentation he could use to contest our prenuptial agreement. Claim I wasn't competent when I signed certain financial documents, and potentially access my family trust. I would never falsify medical records. Then what exactly was today's evaluation supposed to accomplish? Patricia asked sharply. Because from where we're sitting, it looks like a colleague agreeing to provide convenient medical opinions to support fraud. David's face reddened. Marcus said you were having symptoms. I was trying to help. Without ever speaking to me directly. Without reviewing my medical history. Without any actual evidence of cognitive decline. I pulled out a folder. Meanwhile, I have evidence that you've been prescribing controlled substances across state lines without proper licensing. That you've been providing medications to Marcus to give to his girlfriend without proper examination. That you've been a knowing participant in medical fraud. That's not... It is. And the Medical Ethics Board agrees. You'll be receiving notice of an investigation next week. I stood. This consultation is over. Consider this your warning, David. If you ever attempt to practice medicine unethically again, I'll personally ensure you lose your license. We left him sitting there, speechless and pale. Outside, Patricia squeezed my shoulder. That was magnificent. That was necessary, I corrected. But I allowed myself a small smile. The fallout was swift and devastating. By Monday morning, the pharmacy board had suspended David's prescribing privileges pending investigation. Catherine filed a police report detailing Marcus's fraud, and I filed for a restraining order, backed by months of documented manipulation. Marcus tried to fight back, sent threatening emails that only strengthened my case, attempted to withdraw money from our joint account, only to find I'd already frozen it, called my mother, trying to convince her I was having a breakdown. My mother's response was classic Margaret Ashford. Young man, my daughter has a medical degree from Johns Hopkins, board certification in neurology, and an IQ that puts her in the 99th percentile. If she says you're a manipulative fraud, I believe her. Lose this number. The Medical Ethics Board investigation moved forward with surprising speed. Turned out, David had a history of questionable prescribing practices. My complaint was just the final straw. Within 6 weeks, he lost his medical license. Marcus faced criminal charges for medical fraud and identity theft. He'd been using fake doctor credentials to order medications. His pharmaceutical sales career was over. His reputation was destroyed, but the sweetest victory came 3 months later. I was reviewing patient files when Rita knocked on my door. Dr. Ashford? Catherine Reeves is here. She doesn't have an appointment, but she asked if you had a few minutes. Catherine looked different, healthier. Her eyes were clear, her color good. She was off all the medications Marcus had been feeding her, under proper medical supervision for the first time in months. I wanted to thank you, she said simply, and to apologize. I should have questioned things sooner. You were being manipulated by someone you trusted, I replied. That's not your fault. I testified at his trial last week. They're expecting a guilty verdict. Good, she hesitated. Can I ask you something? How did you stay so calm through all of it? Finding out about me, dealing with his manipulation. You never seemed angry. I considered the question. I was angry. Furious, actually. But I'm a neurologist. I understand that revenge isn't about emotion. It's about precision. Marcus and David tried to use my profession against me. I just used it better than they did. You're remarkable, Catherine said softly. I'm thorough, I corrected. There's a difference. After she left, I stood at my window, looking out over the city. The same view I'd had 3 months ago when my world imploded. But everything had changed. Marcus was awaiting sentencing. David was working at a pharmacy counter, his medical career destroyed. And I was still here, still practicing, still healing people. The real victory wasn't their destruction. It was that they'd tried to make me doubt my own mind, the thing I'd spent 20 years developing, and failed spectacularly. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Dinner this weekend? Your father wants to celebrate. Celebrate what? I typed back. You being you. I smiled. Sometimes the best revenge wasn't about the takedown. It was about being exactly who you were, meant to be, despite everyone who tried to diminish you. 6 months after everything fell apart, I was reviewing a new patient file when something caught my attention. The referring physician was from Marcus's old pharmaceutical company. The patient presented with symptoms I recognized immediately: anxiety, headaches, visual disturbances, all potentially linked to medication interactions. I called Rita into my office. "Flag this file," I said quietly. "Run a full medication interaction check, and if there's any evidence of doctor shopping or inappropriate prescribing, report it immediately." "You think it's happening again?" "I think there are always going to be people who try to manipulate vulnerable patients for personal gain." I met her eyes. "But there are also going to be doctors who notice, who document, who refuse to let it slide. Like you." "Like us," I corrected. The patient arrived the next morning. Young woman, mid-30s, nervous and overwhelmed. Her boyfriend had set up the appointment, she explained. He worked in pharmaceutical sales. He was very concerned about her symptoms. I went through my standard neurological examination, but my mind was already working through the larger pattern. How many women were being slowly poisoned by partners who saw them as assets to exploit? How many were being gaslit into believing they were sick? "Your MRI looks normal," I told her gently. "But I'm concerned about your medication regimen. These interactions could be causing your symptoms." "Oh, but my boyfriend's friend is a doctor. He said these were safe." Red flags everywhere. "I'd like to run some additional tests," I said carefully. "And I need you to bring me a complete list of every medication you're taking, including anything prescribed out of state." As she left, I added a note to her file. Not just about medication interactions, but about patterns of control. Red flags for coercive relationships. Resources for domestic abuse support. Because that was the real lesson Marcus had taught me. Not how to destroy people who crossed me, but how to recognize when someone needed help. How to use my position to protect vulnerable patients. My phone rang. "Patricia, my attorney, with good news?" Marcus just accepted a plea deal. 3 years, with possibility of parole after 18 months. David got 2 years for medical fraud. And Catherine? She's doing well. Started a blog about recognizing manipulative relationships. It's apparently going viral. After we hung up, I sat back in my chair and thought about the past 6 months. About dropping that wine glass deliberately, knowing it would give Marcus false hope. About documenting every manipulation. About building a case so airtight that even the best lawyers couldn't break it. But mostly, I thought about Catherine. About how easy it would have been to hate her, to see her as the enemy. Instead, I'd recognized her as another victim and helped her escape. That was the real victory. Not the destruction of Marcus's life, but the rebuilding of Catherine's. And mine. The evening light filtered through my office window, painting everything in golden tones. In a few minutes, I'd go home to my apartment. Marcus free, drama free, mine alone. Tomorrow, I'd return to the hospital and continue doing what I'd always done, helping patients navigate the terrifying landscape of neurological disease. But I'd do it with new awareness, new vigilance. Because I'd learned that sometimes the most dangerous disease wasn't the one attacking the brain from within. Sometimes it was the person pretending to care while slowly dismantling your world from the outside. And if there was one thing I'd proven beyond doubt, it was this. I would never be anyone's victim again. I would be the neurologist who saw through the lies. The doctor who documented the truth. The woman who turned her fiancé's attempted gaslighting into his own prison sentence. Marcus had wanted to play doctor with my life. Instead, I'd given him a masterclass in exactly how devastating a brilliant mind could be when it decided to fight back. I locked my office door and headed home, my thoughts already on tomorrow's patients. Somewhere out there, Marcus was probably cursing my name. David was probably wondering how everything went so wrong. But I wasn't thinking about them. I was thinking about the woman I'd saved, the career I'd protected, the truth I'd refused to let die. And I was smiling, Because in the end, the best revenge wasn't just about winning. It was about making absolutely certain they could never hurt anyone else again. I'd done that, and I'd do it again if I had to. After all, I was Dr. Diane Ashford, neurologist. And now everyone knew exactly what that meant. The end Marcus Brennan received 3 years in prison for medical fraud and identity theft. Dr. David Martinez lost his medical license permanently and served 2 years for conspiracy to commit fraud. Catherine Reeves made a full recovery and became an advocate for victims of coercive control. Her blog reached millions of readers and helped change laws around medical fraud in intimate partner relationships. Dr. Diane Ashford continued her practice at Mercy General Hospital, specializing in both neurology and identifying patterns of medical abuse. She never married, but she did help establish the nation's first medical task force for identifying medication-based domestic abuse, and she never dropped another wine glass accidentally in her life. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.